Do you know that every time you wore that wig, I got something you lost? That's what Tomi finally admitted to her friends after their lives began falling apart one by one. A dream job lost, a fiancé walking out without warning, and a visa nearly slipping through their fingers. And the reason? It all came down to something they never suspected: a simple gift. Life had never been particularly kind to Tomi. Every time she thought she was on the brink of something great, something better always seemed to land in someone else's lap. She had big dreams, but the world didn't seem to care about dreams, especially as one day on her way home from another disappointing job interview, she found herself in a rickety Lagos bus. The bus was as loud and chaotic as ever. Hawkers shouted their wares through the open windows, passengers argued over change, and the driver cursed at unseen cars. Tomi sat in the corner, her head pressed against the hot glass, trying to drown it all out. That's when she saw it, the sticker. It was an old, peeling sticker with faint letters written in bold: Quick Riches and Prosperity. It might have been one of many scam ads plastered around Lagos, but for some reason it caught her attention. Underneath the bold promise was an address scrawled in smaller letters and phone numbers in red ink. Quick riches, Tomi thought bitterly. She had been praying for riches, quick or slow, for years now. Her friends didn't seem to have to beg for it. Tosi had just landed that multinational job she had been dreaming of. Bola's fiancé had proposed in front of a whole group just last weekend. Yinka was packing her bags for a new life abroad. And Tomi, she was stuck. Same boss, same life, same story. For a moment she hesitated. She told herself to look away, to ignore the sticker. This was the sort of thing desperate people fell for. But wasn't she desperate? She scribbled the address into the corner of her notepad before she could change her mind. The address led Tomi to a part of Lagos she had never ventured into before. The narrow street buzzed with activity. Shops selling everything from phone accessories to traditional herbs lined the sidewalk. At the far end, tucked between small pharmacy and the barber shop, was the building she was looking for. It didn't look like much from outside, just a narrow door with faded red paint and no signboard. But the moment Tomi stepped in, the atmosphere shifted. The air was heavy with the scent of incense and something else she couldn't place. It was sweet but sharp, like burnt sugar. The room was dimly lit and the shelves lined the walls, stacked with strange objects: candles, beads, bottles filled with what looked like powders and oils. But what caught her attention were the wigs, dozens of them displayed like trophies on mannequins' heads. Lined a table in the center of the room, they gleamed under the dim lights, long, luxurious, and unnervingly lifelike. "Welcome," the voice startled her. A man stepped out from the shadows, his appearance as strange as the shop itself. His skin was a deep bronze and his eyes were sharp and penetrating, almost like he could see right through her. I saw your sticker," Tomi stammered. The man tilted his head slightly. Yes, many see it, but not everyone comes." He studied her carefully, his gaze lingering on her worn-out shoes and the anxious way she clutched her bag. "You want success, don't you?" Tomi swallowed. "Yes. Not just success, you want what others have." Tomi froze. How did he know? She hadn't said anything about her friends. "Don't be ashamed," the man said. "Everyone feels envy. The question is, what are you willing to do about it?" Tomi hesitated, but finally sat down. "What exactly do you do here?" The man smiled. "I help people take what should rightfully be theirs." He walked to the table and picked up one of the wigs. It was jet black and impossibly sleek, as if it had been crafted strand by strand. These are not ordinary wigs. They are imbued with energy power. When you give one to someone, it becomes a bridge, a channel. "A channel?" Tomi asked. The man nodded. "Whatever good fortune they have, whatever blessings, they flow through the wig and find their way to you." Tomi's heart raced. It sounded absurd, impossible even. But there was something in the man's voice, in the stillness of the room, that made her believe him. "What's the catch?" she asked. The man's smile widened. "The wigs work on envy. The more you desire what someone has, the stronger the connection. But envy is not without cost. Are you ready for that?" Tomi didn't think twice. Yes, I'm ready. 2 days later, Tosin had invited the group out to celebrate a new job. She had landed a position at a multinational company, one that Tomi had applied to months ago but never heard back from. At dinner, Tomi watched as Tosin glowed with happiness, talking about her new office, her plans for the future. Tomi plastered on a smile, but inside, the familiar bitterness churned. You deserve this, Tomi said, handing Tosin a box. A little gift for your first day, for good luck. Tosin opened it and gasped. Tomi, this is beautiful. You didn't have to. Nonsense, Tomi said. You are going to look amazing on Monday. Tosin hugged her, and for a moment, Tomi almost felt guilty. Almost. The following Monday, Tosin's disaster unfolded like clockwork. She wore the wig proudly, snapping selfies on her way to the office, but everything that could go wrong did. A missing report she swore she had saved on her computer. By the end of the day, her boss called her into his office and told her the company made a mistake in hiring her. The next day, Tomi received a call. We found your application, the HR manager said. Would you be able to start next week? Tomi hung up the phone, a slow smile spreading across her face. The wig worked. Tomi couldn't stop smiling as she walked out of the building, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. The call from the HR manager had been brief but life-changing. The same multinational company that had just fired Tosin. It felt too easy, too perfect. As she stepped into the streets, her thoughts turned to the wig she had just gifted Tosin. It had worked, just as the guru had said it would. The blessings that should have been hers were now finally flowing to her way. This was just the beginning, Tomi thought, grabbing her bag tightly. Inside was another wig, long and urban, with soft curls that seemed to glow under the light. She had picked it up from the guru the day before, just in case another opportunity presented itself. And then her phone buzzed. It was Bola, her name flashing brightly on the screen. Hello, Tomi answered. Hi, Tomi. Kunle and I are planning our pre-wedding photo shoot for next week, Bola continued, her words tumbling out on a rush. You have to come. I want all my friends to help me plan everything. Tomi's grip tightened on her phone as she glanced at her bag. The urban ring seemed to hum with potential, as if it were waiting for its moment. I wouldn't miss it for the world, she said, her voice soft and sweet. And just like that, Tomi felt her envy begin to churn again, stronger this time. Bola was the kind of person whose happiness radiated outward. It was impossible not to get swept up in her joy, and her engagement to Kunle was no exception. The day of the photo shoot felt like a celebration in itself. Bola had spared no expense, hiring a professional photographer, renting out a scenic garden, and arranging for her friends to help her get ready. Tomi arrived early, carrying a box wrapped in silver paper. She found Bola in front of the mirror, fussing with her makeup. Tomi, Bola turned, her face lighting up. You are just in time. What's that? Tomi handed her the box with a smile. A little something to make you shine today. Bola tore the wrapping, gasping as she pulled out the urban wig. Wow, this is stunning. You didn't have to. I wanted to, Tomi said quickly. You look amazing in it. Kunle won't be able to take his eyes off you. Bola beamed, holding the wig to the light. Thank you so much, Tomi. You are such a good friend. Tomi's stomach twisted at the words, but she forced a smile. Anything for you. The photo shoot started off perfectly. Bola looked radiant in her gown, the urban ring framing her face like a crown. Kunle couldn't stop smiling, holding her hand tightly as the photographer directed their poses. But as the afternoon wore on, something shifted. Kunle's phone buzzed repeatedly, and each time he checked it, his smile faded a little more. Kunle, is everything okay? Bola asked with concern. Yeah, Kunle said, forcing a smile. But his hands felt cold against hers, and his smile seemed distant. It wasn't until the final set of photos that Kunle stepped away to take a call. When he returned, his face was tight with tension. We need to talk, he said to Bola. Right now, Bola asked, confused. Yes, Kunle said firmly. The photographer, sensing the shift in the mood, stepped back, his camera dangling uselessly at his side. The other friends exchanged uneasy glances as Kunle pulled Bola aside, speaking in hushed tones. Tomi watched from a distance, her heart racing. Bola's voice rose up suddenly. What do you mean your mother said we are not compatible? She's been fine with me all this time. Kulu's response was too quiet to hear, but his face was etched with regret. Within minutes, it was all over. Kulu left without looking back and Bola collapsed into a chair, her eyes brimming with tears. What just happened? Tosin asked Yinka. I don't know, but something feels off. Tomi kept her face carefully neutral, but inside, a strange satisfaction bloomed. The wig had done its work. The fallout from Bola's photoshoot lingered in the air like bad storm. The friends were still reeling from what had happened. Bola hadn't left her apartment since Kunle called off the engagement and Tosin was keeping her distance, unsure of how to comfort her. Tomi, however, seemed unfazed. It's so sad, she said casually to Yinka. I feel so bad for Bola, but honestly, it's probably for the best. If Kunle could do something like that, he didn't deserve her. Yinka frowned. Still, it's strange how it all happened. He was so sure about her and then poof, everything just changed overnight. Tomi's laugh sounded first. People are unpredictable, Yinka. That's life. Maybe, Yinka said, but something about Tomi's tone made her uneasy. Anyway, Tomi said brightly, changing the subject. I heard your big news. You are moving abroad. That's huge. Yeah, Yinka said. I got my work visa approved. I'm picking up my passport on Friday. Wow, congratulations, Tomi said. We have to celebrate before you leave. Let me know when you are free. I'll plan something. Sure, Yinka replied. Oh, and by the way, Tomi's voice took on a conspiratorial tone. I have a gift for you. A gift? Just a little something to help you on your journey, Tomi said. Trust me, you would love it. I'll drop it off tomorrow. The next day, Tomi showed up at Yinka's apartment with a neatly wrapped box. This is for you, she said, handing it over with a wild smile. Yinka opened the box to reveal a wig, long, straight and jet black with a sheen that caught the light. Tomi, this is beautiful, Yinka said, running her fingers over the strands. You didn't have to. I wanted to, Tomi said quickly. You're starting a new chapter in your life. You should look your best for your passport appointment. First impressions matter, you know. Yinka smiled gratefully as Tomi left. On the morning of her appointment, Yinka stood in front of a mirror holding the wig in her hands. It was really beautiful, sleek and perfect, with not a single hair out of place. She thought about what Tomi had said about looking her best for her appointment. She placed the wig on her head and adjusted it carefully, tucking her natural hair underneath. It fit like a glove, and for a moment she admired her reflection. But the moment was shattered when her bedroom door burst open. Yinka's mom stood in the doorway, her face pale and her eyes wide with alarm. Take it off, she said sharply. Yinka frowned. What? The wig, her mother shouted. Take it off now. Mommy, what's wrong? Yinka asked, confused. Her mother walked over and yanked the wig off her head, tossing it on the bed. I had a dream last night. Something dark surrounds that wig. You must not wear it. Yinka's stomach twisted. A dream? Yes, her mother said firmly. I saw a shadow clinging to it, like it was alive. It was trying to attach itself to you. Mommy, that's just a superstition. It's not superstition, her mother interrupted, her voice trembling. I know what I saw. Don't wear it. Yinka looked at the wig, lying innocently on her bed. She wanted to argue, to brush off her mother's warning. So reluctantly, she nodded. Okay, Mommy, I won't wear it. Her mother exhaled with relief and kissed her forehead. Good. Now go and get your passport. Everything will be fine. Later that afternoon, Yinka walked out of the embassy with her passport in the hand. The appointment had gone smoothly and she felt a surge of excitement as she imagined her future abroad. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was Tomi. Hey Yinka, Tomi said, her voice unusually cheerful. How did it go? Did you get your passport? Yes, Yinka said cautiously. Great. Tomi said quickly, and nothing strange happened, right? No delays, no issues? Yinka frowned. Why would anything strange happen? Oh, I don't know, Tomi said with a nervous laugh. You know how these things can be. Sometimes they are last-minute problems. Yinka's chest tightened. No, everything went fine. Why are you asking? Just curious, Tomi said breezily. Anyways, congrats. Talk soon. She hung up before Yinka could respond. Yinka stood on the sidewalk, staring at her phone. Her mother's warning replayed in her mind. Why would Tomi ask that? And more importantly, why did her voice sound almost disappointed? Yinka's grip tightened on her phone. The pieces were starting to fall into place and she didn't like the pictures they were forming. Yinka couldn't shake the unease that had settled over her since Tomi's call. The question, nothing strange happened, right? echoed in her mind like a warning bell, and her mother's dream. When she got home, she went to her room, pulled the wig off its place on her dresser, and turned it over in her hands. Studying it closely for the first time, the stitching at the base looked off. There were faint symbols that she hadn't noticed before, hidden beneath the layers of the hair. A chill ran through her. Yinka grabbed her phone. She didn't know exactly what she was looking for, but she knew one thing. She needed answers. She dialed Tosin's number. Tosin answered after a few rings. Yinka, is everything okay? Tosin, I need to ask you something. It's about Tomi. Okay, what is it? Do you still have the wig Tomi gave to you? Yinka asked. There was a pause. Yes, I do. I haven't worn it in a while though. Why? Tosin asked. Have you ever noticed anything strange happening to you when you wore it? Yinka asked. Strange how? Tosin sounded confused. Like bad luck, losing things, getting sick, anything that doesn't feel normal. Tosin was silent for a moment. Now that you mentioned it, yeah, there were a few times I wore it out to work once and I lost my phone on the way home. Another time I wore it to a party and I felt so sick I had to leave early. I thought it was just coincidence. It's not coincidence, Yinka said firmly. I think there is something wrong with these wigs. Can you meet me tomorrow? I want to talk to everyone about this. Yinka, what are you saying? Tomi asked. I am saying we have been set up, Yinka, her voice shaking. I need to call Bola. Bola was more defensive when Yinka called her. What's this about, Yinka? You're scaring me. Bola, just listen, Yinka said. Do you still have the wig Tomi gave you for your photo shoot? Yes, Bola said hesitantly. It's in my wardrobe. Why? When was the last time you wore it? I don't know. After Kunle ended things, I didn't even want to look at it again. Yinka pressed on. Do you think anything strange happened when you wore it? Before or after the photo shoot? There was a long pause. I mean, maybe. I wore it to a wedding few weeks after the photo shoot and I lost my wallet. But that doesn't mean anything, right? It's just bad luck. It is not bad luck, Yinka said. I have spoken to Tosin and the same thing happened to her. It's the wigs, Bola. Tomi has been using them to, I don't know, steal our blessings or something. That's crazy, Bola said. You think she's doing this on purpose? I don't know. Meet me tomorrow. I'll explain everything. The next evening, the group gathered at Shade's house. Shade hadn't been given a wig, but she was quick to offer a home for the meeting once Yinka explained her suspicions. The atmosphere was tense as the friends sat around Shade's living room. Yinka placed the wig Tomi had given her on the coffee table, its glossy strands catching the light. Bola and Tosin hesitated before pulling out their own wigs and handing them to the pile. Shade studied the wigs with a frown. I have always thought there was something off about Tomi, I just didn't know what. Same, Tosin admitted. She always seemed too happy when things went wrong for us. Bola shook her head. But why? Why would she do this to us? We've always been there for her. Because she's jealous, Yinka said flatly. The other stared at her. Think about it, Yinka continued. Every time something good happened to us, Tomi was there with a wig. And every time we wore them, something bad happened. Tosin lost her job, Bola lost Kunle, I almost lost my visa. She paused, letting her words sink in. She didn't give us those wigs as a gift. She gave them to us to take what we had. Bola's hands trembled as she clutched her bag. This is insane. Are you saying she cursed us? I am saying she used us, Yinka said, and I think she's been doing it for a while. But how? Tosin asked, her voice shaky. How could she even do something like this? Yinka hesitated. I don't know. But I think we need to find out someone who does. Shade nodded. I know someone, a pastor. He helped my mom once. If anyone can figure it out, it's him. Then we go tomorrow, Yinka said. I want answers and I want to make sure Tomi never does this to anyone else. The air inside Shade's car was tense as Yinka and her friends drove to the church the next day. No one spoke, but the silence wasn't comfortable. It was heavy, laden with questions they didn't yet have the answer to. Each of them carried their wig in a plastic bag, as though touching it directly might curse them again. Yinka broke the silence as they pulled up to the small church compound. You sure this pastor can help? He helped my mom, Shade said simply. If anyone can figure out what's going on, it's him. The church was modest. Inside, Pastor Emmanuel waited in his office, seated behind a plain wooden desk. He stood when the women entered, his piercing eyes scanning each of them as though he could see the burdens they carried. Welcome, he said warmly. Please sit. They settled into their chairs across from him, but no one spoke. The tension in the room was palpable. "You are troubled," Pastor Emmanuel said, his gaze falling on Yinka. "Shade's mommy told me you believe that these wigs are connected to misfortunes in your lives. Is that correct?" Yinka nodded and placed the plastic bag on the desk. "Yes, sir. We didn't realize it at first, but every time we wore the wigs, something bad happened to us. It wasn't just small things. Job lost, relationships ruined, opportunities gone. We think they were cursed." The pastor's expression grew serious. "Who gave you these wigs?" "Our friend Tomi," Bola said. "Do you know where she got them from?" The women exchanged uneasy glances. "No," Yinka admitted. "She always acted like they were just gifts. We didn't think to ask." "Let me see the wigs," Pastor Emmanuel said. The women placed their plastic bags on the desk, each holding their breath as the pastor carefully removed the wigs one by one. He studied them closely, flipping them over to examine the undersides. "These are not ordinary wigs," he said after a long moment. "What do you mean?" Yinka asked. The pastor turned the wigs over, exposing the base. "Do you see these patterns stitched to the lining? They are spiritual symbols, subtle but highly effective. They were placed here to bind energies in this object." "What kind of energy?" Bola asked nervously. The pastor placed the wig back on the desk. "The kind that takes. These wigs are channels designed to siphon blessings from one person and transfer them to another. Every time you wore them, your good fortune, your success, your prosperity was drawn away from you and given to Tomi," Yinka said, her voice trembling. The pastor nodded. "If she's the one who gave you these wigs, then yes, she has been receiving the blessings you lost." Tosin let out a shaky breath. "I knew something was wrong, but I didn't think she would do this to us. We are friends." Pastor Emmanuel nodded slowly. "Then this is more dangerous than you realize. Whoever created these wigs is skilled in manipulating spiritual energy, and they have drawn your friend into something far darker than she likely understands." The women tensed at his words. "What do you mean?" Tosin asked hesitantly. "Your friend has involved herself in a practice rooted in envy and greed," Pastor Emmanuel said. "It may have started as desperation, but the path she's on now is one of destruction for herself and for others. If she continues, the consequences will be severe. Envy can twist even the strongest bonds," the pastor said gently. "But understand this, your friend is not free from the consequences of her action. By dabbling in such things, she has entangled herself in a serious spiritual mess, one that will not let her go easily." "What do you mean?" Shade asked, leaning forward. "These practices always come at a cost," Pastor Emmanuel said. "The person using them may enjoy temporary gains, but eventually the spiritual forces they have called upon demand payment, and the price is always higher than they expected." The women exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the pastor's words sinking in. "What do we do now?" Tosin asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We destroy them," Pastor Emmanuel said firmly. "But first, we must break their hold on you through prayer. These objects can no longer have any power over your lives." He rose up from his chair and gestured for the women to follow him to the small prayer room at the back of the church. The pastor placed the wigs in the center of the table and anointed each of the women with oil, mumbling a quiet prayer as he did. "Stretch your hands towards the wigs," he instructed. The women obeyed, their palms trembling as they followed his lead. The pastor began to pray loudly, his deep voice resonating through the room. "Every curse tied to these objects, we break it now in the name of Jesus. Every stolen blessing, we command it to return to its rightful owners." The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen force. Yinka felt a strange pressure in her chest, like something was being pulled away. Beside her, Bola clutched her hands together and Tosin let out a quiet gasp. The pastor's voice grew stronger. "You have no power here. By the blood of Jesus, we destroy every evil connection and break every curse." The lights flickered and the wigs on the table seemed to shift, their glossy strands risen unnaturally. "Do not be afraid," Pastor Emmanuel said firmly. "The power of the curse is broken." Finally, the oppressive weight lifted, leaving the room feeling light and peaceful. "It is done," the pastor said, wiping his brow. Pastor Emmanuel led the group outside to a small fire pit behind the church. One by one, he tossed the wigs into the flames. The fire burned unnaturally high, the wigs curling and blackening as they were consumed. When the last wig was reduced to ash, the pastor turned to the women. "You are now free," he said. "The curse has been broken, but your friend, she's still trapped in the web that she has created. You must confront her and urge her to seek deliverance before it is too late." Bola's jaw tightened. Why should we care about her after everything she's done to us? "Because if she doesn't repent, she will only fall deeper into darkness," the pastor said. "And her actions may harm others, not just herself. You have been given the chance to break free. Now you must give her the chance to do the same." The women nodded reluctantly as they left the church. Yinka felt a strange mixture of relief and resolve. "It's not over yet," she said as they climbed into the car. "No," Tosin agreed, "but it will be after we confront Tomi." The next morning, Yinka called Tomi and asked her to meet at Bola's apartment. Tomi didn't hesitate, her voice cheerful as ever. "What's the occasion?" Tomi asked over the phone. "We need to talk," Yinka said simply. "Everyone is going to be there?" "Yes," Yinka replied, her voice tight. "Sounds fun. I'll see you then," Tomi said, hanging up. Yinka placed her phone on the table and looked at the others, who sat in tense silence. "She's coming," Yinka said. Tosi crossed her arms. "Good. She needs to hear what the pastor said, whether she likes it or not." "She won't admit anything easily," Shadi said. "But the pastor was clear. She needs deliverance and we are going to make her understand that. Whether she listens or not is up to her," Yinka added grimly. When the doorbell rang an hour later, Yinka opened it to find Tomi standing there, dressed impeccably as always, her hair styled in soft waves. She carried a small gift bag in her hand. "Hey girls, what's with the serious faces? Did someone get the bad news again?" Bola bristled at the remark, but Yinka motioned for her to stay quiet. "Sit down, Tomi," Yinka said, closing the door. Tomi's smile faltered as she looked around at the serious expressions on her friends' faces. "Okay, what's going on?" Yinka crossed her arms, standing in front of the couch where Tomi had settled. "We know about the wigs." Tomi blinked. "What wigs?" "The ones you gave us," Tosin said sharply. "The ones that ruined our lives." Tomi laughed nervously. "What are you talking about? I gave you those wigs as gift. How could they ruin anything?" "Stop pretending," Yinka said. "We went to a pastor and he told us what those wigs were really for." Tomi's eyes darted around the room, but her smile stayed frozen in place. "What are you trying to say?" "You know exactly what we are trying to say," Bola snapped. "Those wigs were cursed. Every time you wore them, they drained our blessings and gave them to you." Tomi's composure slipped, her hands clenched in her laps. She looked away. "Fine," Tomi said quietly after a long pause. "You are right, I knew." Tosin recalled. "I can't believe this. Why, Tomi? Why would you do this to us?" Tomi lifted her head, her eyes brimming with tears. "You wouldn't understand. Try us," Bola said coldly. Tomi hesitated and then began to speak, her voice shaking. "You don't know what it is like to watch all of you moving forward while I'm stuck in the same place. Tosin with her dream job, Bola with her perfect engagement, Yinka always quiet but suddenly getting everything she ever wanted. And me, what do I have?" "We are your friends," Shade said. "You had us." "I didn't want friends," Tomi snapped. "I wanted a life, a real life, one where I didn't have to struggle for anything." "So you sacrificed us?" Bola asked, her voice cold. "You betrayed us for what? A few stolen blessings?" "I didn't think it would hurt you," Tomi said desperately. "I thought I would just balance things out. You still have enough and I'll have a little more." Bola stood up abruptly, her fist clenched. "A little more? Tomi, you destroyed my engagement. You ruined my life." Tomi flinched, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to go that far." "But it did," Yinka said firmly. "And now it's over. We destroyed the wigs. We broke the curse." Tomi's head snapped up. "What?" "We took them to a pastor," Yinka said. "He prayed over them and burned them. Your little scheme is finished." Tomi's shoulders sagged as she buried her face in her hands. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Without those wigs, I have nothing." "That's not true," Shade said. "But you've convinced yourself that it is." "The pastor told us something else," Yinka added. "He said you have gotten yourself into serious trouble." Whoever gave you those wigs didn't do it for free. These kinds of powers always demand a price, Tomi, and it's a price you can't afford to pay. Tomi's tear-streaked face snapped up. He said that? Yes, Bola said. And he also said you need deliverance if you want to be free from the mess you've created for yourself. Otherwise, this will destroy you. Deliverance, Tomi repeated, her voice dripping with disbelief. You think some prayers will fix everything? You think that pastor knows anything about what I've been through? He knows enough, Tosi said. He knows envy is eating you alive, and if you don't stop, it will kill you. You need help, Tomi. Serious help. Tomi let out a bitter laugh. You think I'm the only one who's ever done something like this? You think you are better than me because you have never been desperate enough to take what you deserve? This isn't about being better than you, Yinka said, her voice rising. This is about taking responsibility for the lives you've destroyed, including your own. Tomi stood up abruptly, brushing her tears away. I don't need your pity, and I don't need your lectures. I'll figure it out on my own. Where did you even get the wigs? Shadi asked. Tomi's jaw tightened. It doesn't matter, just leave me alone. She stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind her. The room fell silent in her absence. She didn't listen, Bola said finally, her voice trembling with anger. Of course she didn't, Tosi muttered. She's too proud to admit she needs help. She will learn eventually, Yinka said, staring at the door, but it might be too late by then. Shade nodded. We did our part, now it's up to her. The group left Bola's apartment with their hearts heavy but resolute. They had freed themselves from Tomi's betrayal, but deep down they couldn't shake the feeling that her story wasn't over. As they walked to their cars, Yinka glanced up at the sky, silently hoping Tomi would find the strength to face the darkness she had embraced. But in the back of her mind, she feared that Tomi's envy would only lead her further into the abyss. As the story of Yinka, Bola, and Tosi and Shade draws to a close, it leaves us with a powerful lesson, one we should all take to heart. Be cautious of the gifts you receive. Not all gifts are given with good intentions, and some may carry burdens you cannot see. Before using any gift, always pray over it. Ask for divine protection and guidance, because what seems harmless on the surface may hide unseen dangers. Tomi's story is a sobering reminder of how envy and desperation can lead people down dark paths. While the wigs were destroyed and her friends broke free from their curse, Tomi's fate remains uncertain. Do you want to know what happened to Tomi afterwards? If you do, let me know in the comments. And before you go, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on more stories like this, stories that entertain, inspire, and leave you with something to think about. Thank you for listening, and remember, protect your blessings, stay prayerful, and always tread carefully when it comes to the unknown. Be kind and stay blessed.